Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's APT in Cybersecurity LinkedIn Live event. I'm Aaron Stillwell and joined by my co-host Alex Mabro and special co-host Matthew Rosenquist. Our topic today is one of the most pressing in the industry: cybersecurity careers in the age of AI, how to stay relevant and resilient. We are very pleased to welcome Monica Verma as our guest. Monica is a former head of information security at Telefonica, founder of the Cyber Leader Academy, and a globally recognized thought leader who advises boards and mentors cyber professionals on navigating the AI-driven information. Over the next hour, we will explore which roles are most exposed to AI disruption, and which are becoming significantly more valuable. Monica will also share practical frameworks from her work with CISOs and security leaders, including insights from her masterclass and the new AI for Cyber Leaders Accelerator program. If you're watching live, please feel free to introduce yourself and your current role in the comments. Monica, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Really, really happy to be here. Just a tiny, tiny correction. I was not the CISO for Telefonica, but Orange Business. And I'm the
Gotcha.
founder of Monica Talk Cyber. But
Gotcha. So
that's
sorry
all.
about that.
No worries at all.
Using
I
AI,
just
I
don't
need
want
to make sure
Telefonica
it
coming to me
verifies that
later.
information.
I know exactly. I don't want Telefonica coming back after us and be like, hey, you did. It's an Orange Business. Yeah. So it's a
Okay,
telecom
Orange
company.
Business.
So it
So
does
I'm
make
sorry about
sense.
that. Okay,
No, don't worry about it. Telecom companies, like it's very easy to mix them.
gotcha.
And I just a very quick note on that Orange Business, because it's a digital services side. I tell people all the time, telecom is not that growing business, but the digital services quite a lot. So I'm very proud to have been in that role and really help grow that business. But yeah.
Awesome, thank you. So I guess we'll start off with the first question. And again, we're kind of open it up here, and we'll kind of we'll kind of let it ride from there. But Monica, from your experience, what have you seen change the most in the last kind of 18 to 24 months because of AI?
Well, that's a that's a very big question.
Very broad question, I know.
Very broad question, very
Yeah.
big question. And I think we need to answer that. I need to break it down into different parts, right? So, um, as ChatGPT became public in 2022, end of 2022, November, the end of, I think it was 30th November, 1st December, whatever, exactly then. The first public version of ChatGPT came out, and of course, the world, it just took by storm. 5 days, 1 million subscribers, right? The fastest growth ever. And since then, we have seen like a massive shift and a swing in that shift. And I think that's kind of very important for especially people in cybersecurity, people in tech, people who are working with AI in cyber need to understand. So we went through this hype cycle, of course. By I think Q1 2023, AI had just risen to the top of the hype cycle where everybody was like, oh, AI is magic. It's curing cancer. It's just fantastic. It's just amazing. There were AI tools coming out left, right, and center. Literally, during the time working as the CSO for Orange Business, we were seeing that shift happen, talking to my peers in the industry. And one of the basic trend we saw was everybody was jumping onto some new chatbot. There were new AI tools coming out every week. And uh, the biggest concern that time were two. One, people were obviously putting in all the company data now because there was nothing stopping them from that. And two, companies were wanting to jump on that bandwagon without really understanding why, right?
Yeah.
So I still remember addressing that with my team and our company that time. Um, we need to, so my team and I built a strategy just defining why we want to, because like this is, you've seen this meme probably, right? Where you're like talking to a bunch of CEOs and you're like, what do you want to do? We want AI. What do you want it for? We don't know. When do you want it? Now. Actually, we wanted it yesterday, but now. And they have no idea what for, right? And one of the basic things that have happened is obviously adoption rate has just skyrocketed, right? Now we are also seeing that ROI on that adoption is not that much. Not many companies are actually getting the ROI worth it. And here's where it gets interesting, because when we talk about what is the buy, most companies go like, well, cost reduction. That's not a good enough benefit.
Yeah.
That's really where the challenge lies. Are we really building some? Because no matter what technology comes, the basic question companies need to be asking is, where Does it, what kind of problems am I solving? Why am I solving them? What kind of transformations am I bringing to my customer, my consumers, my market, whatever that is? Unless you answer those questions first, and now you start thinking, okay, when I have these, then I can see like to what extent and where do I use AI in what use cases. So, for example, I have based on the workshops that I've run, based on the work that my team and I have done, I have a really living AI strategy template on my website on monica.cyber.com, which basically goes through 5 key questions every business needs to answer before they start their journey with AI, which I don't think anybody's doing. And that strategy template is for any organization, be it like a 10 sized SME or startup or whatever, or a 10,000, 20,000 um, big organization or Fortune 500. It doesn't matter. And what does it basically ask is, why do you want to use it? What is the purpose, right? What is it you're trying to achieve? Why do you want to get there? What is the business mission there in terms of that? Second is, ask is, what are the expected outcomes? What is it you're trying to achieve that is different than what you've been doing right now? Because all you're trying to do is cost reduction. You're not gonna get that, and that's what studies have been showing right now. The third question that it asks is, understanding basically what are the different use cases based on the expected outcomes. What are the different use cases, starting with 3, not 300, right? That's kind of very critical. And then you basically saying, okay, if these are the expected outcomes, these are the use cases, what could be the unintended consequences? And because of that, the fifth question then, which is when we come to governance, is opportunities versus risks.
Yeah.
This is basic for every organization to answer, to be able to define. And that strategy doesn't need to be a 20-page or 200-page document. It could be very much 3 pages, but it helps you frame the whole thing into what we're doing. So the to answer your question very shortly, very briefly, just to summarize it, adoption rate has gone expansively. ROI hasn't really been proven because people are chasing cost reduction, but not really revenue or business transformation. And third thing that we're seeing is, while adoption is everywhere, trust isn't. And that's really the bridge that we need to build right now.
Yeah, we just had someone put up a comment, and they said AI should be used as a supplement to humans and not supplementing humans.
It is not AI replacing humans or humanity. And I think the question goes much deeper because just I was talking to, Graham Cluley, one of the podcasters, a very good friend of mine. I was just talking to him recently about, we are having these discussions about AI very much just at technology level, whereas it is impacting not just our businesses, not just our organizations, not just our missions, but also humanity. And there are these deeper conversations that need to be had. And the problem is, we can't leave that to 4 tech giants to decide on behalf of the entire population of Earth, which is what is happening right now, which is what is scary. So yeah, I fully understand and empathize with that comment 100%.
So we're definitely seeing a lot of professionals are genuinely worried. Will AI replace my SOC? Will they replace the GRC role? Which roles do you think are truly at risk, and which ones do you see are kind of about to explode demand and value?
Okay, it's a fantastic question. So many people ask me this question. So let me break it down. Okay, when we talk about AI right now, we're specifically talking about generative AI, right? And when we're talking about generative AI, most of that is large language models. It's LLMs, right? That's what the basic foundation is. And the foundation of that is the transformer model that was published by Google, not by OpenAI. If you haven't read that, you go check it out. So how it works is, we need to understand the current state of AI, keeping that in mind. This is how so when I do my AI for cyber leaders workshop, or when I am teaching and training people and leaders and organizations, currently large language models are great at a very few things. One of the biggest things is pattern recognition and analysis of loads and loads and loads and loads of data, right? This is what LLMs are great at. There are some things they're good at, right? So we have to define great, good, and the not so good. That's what we're trying to go with. So they're great at a few things. They are good because of the transformer model. They are now good at mimicking human behavior. So they have obviously transformed the whole natural language processing. Machines can now talk to humans in natural languages. Machines do not understand words, they fully operate on tokens. That's how they build it. but we see it and perceive it as natural languages, and we believe that machines are talking to us. Whereas for them, it doesn't matter. They're not really doing reasoning. They are not really understanding the logic behind it. They are still just bringing tokens together in concatenating, creating that audio, video, and so on. But they're good at mimicking human behavior. And then there are shitloads of things that they're not so good at. So unless we define these categories and we understand that, so now let's look at that. Since they are great at pattern recognition and analysis of lots of data, yes, they will be a big use in SOC. And they should be. Because here's the thing. The trajectory that I see is first is replacing humans time, not humans, but humans time, to like frame it that way. Why would you want to sit for hours and hours and hours to go through logs manually to analyze anomalies? Why? Like that is such a waste of a SOX analyst time, right? And this is not something new. Obviously, anomaly detection has been happening, but now it can happen at much faster speed, much more accuracy, much larger scale. So that's what has shifted. This is like anomaly detection is not new. So using that in SOC is absolutely great use case of AI for even SOC analysts. They should not fear it; they should embrace it. The next thing would be, as I see it, the where LLMs still lack is context. So I have this slide, which I don't have right now, but when I'm doing a workshop, I have this slide where I talk about when you look at specifically incident response, you used to have just signature based analysis. Then you used to have heuristic based analysis. Then you had pattern recognition. And now you have supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, all making that pattern recognition analysis much, much more efficient. But what's still lacking is business context, public information, company information that could be relevant of previous incidents, or procedures that are lying out somewhere, right? Having an interface that you can ask and prompt the AI in the background that, hey, when we had a similar incident, which playbooks did we, for example, used, how good they were, what is what need to be updated, or post incident, you can query the chat gpt or whichever llm you're using of how to fix it and how to do it better for next time in like learning. So I see that there are some great use cases of AI in cyber, but they don't replace SOC analyst's role entirely. Neither do the GRC. So I don't see that it is entire replacement of roles, because we also saw that happening right now. I literally posted about it a couple of months ago. When I mean, we're seeing it, right? Companies are laying off departments, coders, engineers, professionals, because they believe that AI can do all that job. But what happened is that AI is creating wipe coded code, which is creating more shadow AI, more breaches, more insecure code. Ultimately, they will have to hire back the people to fix that mess. So I think that worry about replacement, we need to frame that discussion. There is absolutely benefit of actually using technology in your roles, so don't fear it, embrace it, but understand it to the extent with the basics, like I explained, of how, what is it great at, what's it good at, what is it not so good at, and there's shitloads of things it's not good at. That's where the human embrace where happens, and the future is still human. There is still a lot of skills that we will need in terms of collating data, in terms of connecting the dots, what it means for the business. This is not something that AI will replace anytime soon.
And that's good because I know you described AI as the new junior analyst that never sleeps, right? And that was some great examples of real world examples from day to day where that role can be, but not replacing the other.
Exactly, and that's a great role to have. Why would you not want? Why do you want to be the one not sleeping all the time? Rather have a machine not do that and stay awake for you 24/7. That's fantastic, right?
Do you think there would be a forcing function, right? Because the attackers are also adopting AI and they're less concerned with quality, right? They're willing to just go for it. And if it breaks, fine. And that's driving not only the effectiveness of these attacks, we're seeing it in social engineering, we're seeing it in vulnerability discovery, we're seeing it in the pace of exploitation generation, right? Do you believe that pressure is putting so much weight now on security operations centers, especially in tier one, tier two, right? Second tier SOC operators, that they are now forced to embrace AI to deal with the increased number of attacks and alerts, right? The quantity as well as that quality, because they're using adversarial networks, right? They're learning quickly what works and what doesn't work and iterating based on that. Do we now have a forcing function pushing SOCs to elevate, to adopt AI and elevate that tier one to be greater?
I think more than forcing, I would call it adapt. And I think we have seen that and this is not just, I mean, one of the things that AI does is it has this, it exacerbates everything. It exacerbates in scale and it exacerbates in speed. That's the key thing that's happening with AI versus other technologies, because anytime there's a shift and change in the threat landscape, we do need to adapt. So that forcing is more adaptability. And I think that's where we need to have always been going anyway. Like before, it was what we were talking about. Okay, resilience. I remember writing about cyber warfare and resilience in 2015 or something. And I was shut down by a company that we don't talk about cyber warfare. We don't talk about cyber resilience. This is like, this is not something, this is like taboo. And I'm like, what are you talking about? 2010 was Stuxnet, which was one of the first public cyber warfare example. What, after 5 years, you're telling me that is still taboo? Like, this is literally happening. There are real examples out there, and your customers need to be aware of that, right? So, and then obviously COVID came, then supply chains and all of that, and everything has kind of forced us to adapt, and rightly so. We do need to adapt. So one of the things that I tell to all my students, to every organization that I advise, the adaptability is your biggest factor to becoming and being resilient in this world of AI today, which could tomorrow be PQC and whatever the next tech wave comes, right? And I'm not talking about whether it's a bubble or hype or not. That's not the point. That's beyond the point. But as threat landscape changes, we must adapt. That is the only way to keep, and that's something I've been talking about for a while now. I remember I did a keynote maybe in 2019, if I remember correctly now, where I built this maturity model. It's still, actually, this talk is on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to see it. I did a keynote in Sweden at the Nordic security conference or something, where I talked about we measure maturity of organizations wrongly. We measure maturity of organizations by what is that? I can't even remember the 5 levels. What are they? Managed, not managed, something like that, right?
Yeah.
In terms of processes, right? And that's where the problem is. So I published a cybersecurity adoption lifecycle model, which was published in Dark Reading. And the reason I built that model, which is actually based on the technology adoption lifecycle model, but for cybersecurity, it basically says that we need to think about maturity not in terms of processes. We need to think in terms of whether we are just regulatory driven, whether we are compliance driven, whether we are actually proactive, whether we are adaptive, and whether we're going to be predictive. Now, here's the thing. That model was published 5 years ago when we were not talking about AI. Like, go check it out right now on Dark Reading. That model is there. It was published in 2020, and I'm actually going to write a blog about it now, an updated blog on it, because I made a prediction that time that we will need to move 100% towards adaptive security, which is where we came with resilience. And the next phase of that would be predictive security. That was published 5 years ago when AI was not even a big thing. Today, I guarantee with AI, we definitely need predictive security. And that's what, to your exactly your point, that's where we're going in that direction. Now, I'm not saying that everything is AI orchestrated, everything is autonomous hacking yet. It will be, not right now, even though Anthropic says that. We still have a way to go. But yeah, 100%, we need to adapt and we need to predict and we need to do that fast. But that's not just about forcing, it's the nature of threat landscape changing and us adapting to it.
I think you are referring to unmanaged, managed, defined, quantitatively managed, and optimized. Am I right?
Exactly. And
Yeah,
the
I
problem with
remember
that is,
it was in NIST. This is why
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
in
yes,
this
and
model.
I get it. Nest has like really great frameworks and standards. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying right now don't look at NIST at all. That's not what I'm saying. But the problem with that model is it's just very much ITIL and process driven.
Yeah, correct.
Cybersecurity is not ITIL. I'm
Correct.
sorry, right? So we really need to have that shift. And I talked about it 5 years ago. And I know that we need to do that more often. So like if you really just Google cybersecurity adoption lifecycle Monica Verma right now, you will see that model, and it will share exactly how we need to think about not only maturity but also how the market will evolve going forward.
Yeah.
So let's change it up a little bit, and I'm going to kind of pass it to Alex. He has some questions about how professionals and leaders kind of must involve.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. For someone with 3 to 10 years of experience today, what are the top 3 skills they absolutely must add in the next 12 to 18 months to remain future-proof?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. So how many years of experience? You said 3 years.
3 to 10 years.
Oh, 3 to 10 years. That's how we.
Yeah, in some cases, people are thinking 3 to 5 years at least, and then when you achieve 8 years to 10 years, then it's it's another part of seniority, I could say.
So the skills very much depend on the kind of career you want in cybersecurity, to be
Yeah,
very honest,
correct.
right? There is
correct.
no like, I cannot give you a silver bullet if you want to be a GRC analyst versus if you want to go into audit versus if you want to become a
Yeah.
hacker or a red teamer. Like, and the reason I say that is because I've done all of that, right? I've been a hacker, I've been head of IAM, I've been a CISO, so I can very much relate to what you're saying, but there is no silver bullet. What I can say, a couple of skills so that are really important. First is do understand the basics of what is when we say about AI, right? That's really, really key, because all of these skills are for you to understand in terms of where your role comes into the picture. A lot of that is still problem solving, and a lot of that is also still analytical thinking. This has been true 20 years ago. This
Yeah.
is still true today. This is what differentiates you as a human versus the machine. And if you get to understand that basics, then you realize yourself, oh, yeah, okay, I don't need to really fear that much. Then you're really able to embrace it. So, problem solving and analytical thinking is 100% still the top 2 skills I would believe you need to absolutely master. In addition to understanding the basics, right? So if you already have 3 to 5 years of experience, I would assume you have the basic subject matter expertise in whether it's governance, risk, and compliance, or if you're in tech, or if you're coding, or whatever. So that self-learning is kind of very important. The third very important thing I will say is communication. As we are becoming more and more, as AI is becoming more and more our communicator, and everything becomes AI slop,
Yeah.
you want to be that one that differentiates on actually helping organizations solve real problems and being able to communicate to them how you are solving those real problems. So I'm not talking about communication in terms of you need to be a public speaker, right? Sure, that will help you as well, right?
Yeah.
And something I tell to people a lot when they're doing like a lot of coaching with me on how to be a public speaker and so on, I guide them like, start your public speaking in an onboarding process or an interview or a team meeting in a company. Like, you define what stage, you define your stage, right? That's public
Correct.
for you.
Yeah.
But even if you didn't have to be that, even if you're an introvert, and believe me, I am more of an introvert than people can imagine. I want to be left alone, and I happy being with my family, and I could just not care about the whole world at some point, but I care about my community a lot, and that's why I show up despite being an introvert, and have learned and have mastered communication skills. So I still believe that will absolutely be critical. So have the subject matter expertise, do understand the basics of AI, and on top of that, problem solving, analytical thinking, and communication is going to differentiate you and really make you human in the era where we will need more of you.
Would you say leadership is also part of that critical skill, especially if you're in the you've survived 3 to 10 years, you're one of the survivors? Is leadership going to help you get to that next role, those leadership skills?
100%. So here's the thing when I talk about leadership, right? Leadership is an umbrella term in the way I see it, right? There are a lot of habits and traits that you need to have under that umbrella term for you to be a leader. Title is not one of them. Just
Correct.
FYI, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, titles don't make you leaders. I keep on saying that all the time. Titles don't make you leaders. Doesn't mean that you should not get titles. Doesn't mean you shouldn't get pay. Doesn't mean you shouldn't get authority. But that's not what makes you leader, right? So leadership is, and communication is a part of that leadership skill, right? If you can't, for example, just to give you that, connect those dots, right? if you as a leader cannot communicate your vision, why we're doing, in which direction we are going, right? And you can't bring your team or your business stakeholders or your customers with you on that journey, you failed as a leader, because
Yeah.
nobody's going to implement that if they don't understand the vision, if they're not really strongly connected to that. So being able to articulate that vision over and over, and then bringing people with you, and then with the help of them actually executing it over and over and over again, is what makes you a great leader. And there are a lot of traits we can talk about, but yes, so the way I show leaderships, the way I categorize skills for every cyber professional in our industry, the simple way to do it is this: you have subject matter skills, which is at the bottom. Everybody starts there and stops there. Most of us stop there, which is the problem. On top of that, you have really the next level, which is business skills. So now you lift yourself from just IAM or cloud security or GRC or hacking or whatever, to really understand what the heck the business wants, right? What the heck is your mission? What do other leaders care about, right? What do your customers care about? That's your business skills. But to actually really execute all of that stuff, you need leadership skills. Those are very much on the top. That is its own category and has its own habits and traits. This is literally a model I teach in my accelerator program, in my masterclass. It's literally it: subject matter, business skills, leadership skills. That's what it is.
Superb. You speak regularly with CISOs and heads of security. What are they telling you privately about the new expectations coming from boards? And we have heard a lot from boards, if I'm not wrong, and CEOs, specifically around AI-driven threats and AI-enabled defenses.
Now, this question has different answers depending on
Correct?
where the CISOs are geographically, right?
Yeah.
So if you just think about it, if I'm talking to CISOs that are in US, they are thinking slightly differently versus in
True.
Europe. It's always
True.
a little bit more about governance and guardrails and
Oh,
and
yeah.
how regulations and so on. So there is always this stark comparison that you see between my American friends and my European friends. So that's always one to think about.
I agree over there. I know what you mean. I mean,
Alex definitely agrees with you on this one.
and you know why?
Guaranteed.
I'm in Europe. I mean,
It's a touchy topic. I get it. Like, everybody has an opinion.
and over here, most of the people in Europe are thinking how I can protect myself, how I can protect my company, how I can protect my department, and so on. And then we are thinking, okay, do we have any mitigation or any controls in place? Do we have something? Let's speak with security. What they are saying, we can implement that type of project. Okay, if the project is a valuable one, then okay, how we can bring some money for that one, and so on. This is Europe. I know very well. But when you go to USA, it's very simple. Okay, we don't have a lot of regulatory things like in Europe. Then we can implement that thing. But of course, we need to speak a business language. That's the only thing. That's the most, skill which in the USA it's used. But in Europe, is you can use whatever business you want. But sometimes it's not like that. You have a lot of breaks.
I understand that, and I think you can change that and fix that. And I'll give you an
I
example.
agree.
Right?
I agree on that.
And it's literally in your hands. And I say that from experience, having worked solely, or not solely actually, I've worked for American companies, but the majority of my career has been for European companies, right? And big European companies, big corporations. And they have their bureaucracy and they have all
Yeah.
these. And I think, being a European myself, obviously I'm of the opinion that we do need guardrails. We cannot just go towards revenue at all costs. That's not what we want. And I hear that from CISOs as well. And that's something I think is common, because that's the industry-wide thing. I think also CISOs in America, they're not like, we just want revenue at any and every cost. That's not where the discussion is. It's more the business thinks a bit differently versus the business in Europe. But having been a CSO myself for bigger corporations in Europe, and having helped organizations go through this AI journey and still helping them go through it, we are not done with it, and probably will not be for the next decades.
Yeah.
But it is literally in your power to make that shift. So when boards come, when CEOs come, and they do, because literally this is not just a meme. This is true. CEOs are like, we want to have AI. It was mostly the question initially around like, we want AI. Where do we put AI? How do we get AI? Europe was a little bit more like, okay, we need something, but we don't know what we need in terms of like security. What is that? So they were like a little bit like, put something so like we don't get regulatory fined, but let's just like go for it, right? And
Yeah.
then my job is like, we are not doing this just for preventing regulatory fines. We're doing this because we have an obligation to take care of not only the privacy of employees, but also making sure that we're doing it ethically, we're doing it responsibly, we are doing it in a way that's trustworthy. So we do need to set up, for example, an AI governance framework. We do need to have like some kind of AI and risk committee or something. Don't have to call it committee. I know some people are really against it, which is fine, no problem. But whatever you call it, right? Like some people, and what I mean by that is some people from key parts of the organization. So you have somebody from cyber, you have somebody from privacy, you have somebody from legal, you have somebody from product development, you have somebody from operations represented in that group of people. You may even just call it a governance group, right? That regularly meets and discusses what is happening in terms of implementation of AI, so that we're able to see both the side of the threats but also the governance in the way that it's balanced, and we're not stopping innovation, but we're not just putting anything and everything, creating shadow AI for our own organization and for our own customers, which just makes no sense, right? So that's
Yeah.
going to be completely counterproductive to revenue. So the way to discuss this is to really link how this model of putting governance in place, putting guardrails in place, having some kind of this governance group in place will help achieve better revenue for the organization and better sustainable business for our customers. That is the link. Most CISOs still talk about how it's going to stop the risks, but they don't talk about the direct opportunities that's going to bring. That's where it is. So I'll give you a real example. The last three CISO roles that I've had, every single interview that I've had, and the ones that I actually got through and then got the job, I asked every one of them, what do you believe are your market drivers? That's a question I ask interviewers in every interview. What are your market drivers? Because they don't care about security. Let's just be honest. Nobody does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What is your market driver? That is my job. And the reason I ask that in interviews, because when I step into that role, my strategy is tied directly to those market drivers and to the objectives of the mission. And I can showcase then every program or every project or initiative that I'm implementing as a part of my AI and cyber program directly hits those market drivers. And actually, because of that, can provide revenue. So I have four organizations, for example, help my team and I, not just me individually, but my team and I, we have contributed to, for example, increasing around 20% of revenue in 2 years for our organization through just security programs, right? So the
Yeah.
fact that you can link directly the ROI and the opportunity, the way to do that is by knowing the strategic market drivers of the organization and tying security to it. That's the way to do it. And I don't know anybody who does that. Maybe some people do, but not so many.
Many of the companies, when they are hiring a CISO, because I have talked with many about this, they don't know what they want from their CISO. That's the whole point. This is what I see and what I hear.
And then that's the thing. That's okay because they don't. Okay, that's not okay. Let me just rephrase that. It's okay to the extent that they are not cyber professionals and they do not need to be, and they do not
Yeah.
need to understand. It is our job. It is my job as a CISO to help them understand what am I here doing and how am I doing and how am I contributing to the business mission. So let me give you another example that I teach to my community. What is one thing that is common between us as a cyber department versus a product team, what is a legal team, what is HR versus tech? What is it? What is that one thing that ties all of us together? It's organization's mission. We're literally
One of
all
them. Yeah.
serving organization's mission.
Yeah.
That mindset is exactly where you need to start. The moment you shift that and you realize that there is something common, you now talk to your other leaders as your peers and not as your bosses, because you are literally there exactly in their shoes as well, serving the business mission, serving the organization's
Correct.
mission. That's the level play field now that you've set for yourself. And from there, where it starts exactly in terms of how you're going to contribute. And that's what you communicate to them. That's where you are. That's why you're here in this role. That is why your job is, that is why they hired you to do this. How you do it, there are 100 ways to do it, right? There is not
Yeah.
one set defined way to do it, but that's what you're trying to do. That is the best way to explain why you're here in this organization, and not just to protect against threats. Like, sure, that is the how of what you're achieving and helping them in the mission, but that's still very low level. We need to abstract ourselves a little bit higher.
I think it differs in every company, because each company have different mission, different goal that want to achieve. That's the idea behind. I have seen companies where they are asking, okay, I don't want to implement that kind of tool, all tools. I don't care about tools, but I care about to be secured in terms of whatever type of infrastructure I have, if it's critical or not. Why? Because the company might be a bank or a financial institution where they are looking for their transactions to be secure. And over there, of course, you might have accreditors that they can check the payment, but the payment 100%, it's not correct, because the accreditor who is providing you the service for the PCI DSS to be correct, it's not 100% audited. And then we have another problem over there. I have seen those kind of cases, and then everyone is asking me, okay, how you check those? Okay, let's go the time back and let's see what was happening before, and then from there you can find the root cause, and everything you'll see, it comes in front of you. Maybe you were blind at that time because of too many projects, and you could not have time. But after you see the root cause, you say, okay, then look where it was. So we have to fix that in order to fix all the others. Because many things are, many CISOs are saying, okay, we'll fix maybe from the 10 causes, we'll fix the third and the fifth. Okay, but what about the others? Maybe if the first one is fixed, then the others all could be fixed more easily. But no one is thinking to that. Anyhow, coming back to our question, threat actors are already using generative AI, and we know that. For advanced phishing, like deepfakes, for example, and automated vulnerability discovery. What is one defensive application of AI that you believe is still massively underutilized by most organizations?
Love this question. And I love to answer this question. The most
Please.
underrated use of AI is detecting deepfakes. So,
Okay.
the way deepfakes are created is using generative adversarial networks, or GAN, right? So the way
Yeah.
that works is there are two components. There's a discriminator, there's a generator, and there's a discriminator, right? The generator's job is to create fake data or
Yeah.
synthetic data that looks as real as possible. And discriminator's job is to detect and say, well, it's real or is it fake, right? So every time discriminator says it's fake and it is fake, or when it answers correctly, or when it's real, it says it's real, it wins. When it
Okay.
answers, when it wins, then the cycle goes back, and now it's generator's job to do better, because they're basically playing this game at infinite game between themselves, and they're both trying to win. And because of this infinite game, generator keeps on getting better at generating fake data, and discriminator keeps on getting better at detecting fake data. It's the reason why we have so great, highly convincing deepfake videos out there today. Just recently, I gave this keynote where I was talking about, and actually I posted about it on LinkedIn as well. In November, there were elections in Ireland. So there's this lady called Catherine Connolly who was running for, she was one of the candidates who was running for the president of Ireland. 2 days before the elections, there was this highly convincing deep fake video that came out of her withdrawing from the elections. Like, imagine this. She just
Wow.
was so convincing, dialect, tone, accent, gestures, nailed to the T. Not just her in the video, a news reporter and a journalist as well. So a news reporter announces it. She basically says, I'm withdrawing. A journalist basically confirms it, saying, what does it mean now for Ireland? That automatically the other candidate wins. So now she's going to be the president, right? So completely wrong information spread through that deepfake video, highly convincing, viewed 30,000 times in just 12 hours. I post about it because it's my job as a cyber professional to bring this to my community. My post reposted 31 times because people are like, holy geez, Like, what is this deepfake video really? This is how convincing it has become. So completely underrated AI use case is actually using that GAN for detecting, or using that technology in deepfake detection for video and audio. Because what has become is become really spot on for dialects and accents and gestures and everything. We have seen that, right? It has gone like crazy, from funny Tom Cruise videos to really electioneering we're talking about right
Yeah,
now.
I saw that on YouTube. By the way, can you recommend any tool for the deepfakes, for example?
Not on the top of my head, and I do not ever endorse one vendor or the other, so I
Okay.
can't.
Okay. Okay. No worries. Thank you.
Well,
I'll give
it's
the.
a really difficult problem because that loop between the generator and the discriminator, right, is so good. The attackers always have the advantage. So I've worked with companies, and even large companies, where they've come out and said, "Hey, we've got an AI," and originally it was for images, right? We've got an AI, image detector, and we're at 99.9 something percent. And I said, "Give it a week." Right. And within a week, it was down to 80%. Within 2 weeks, it was down to 70%. Right. The attackers can evolve so quickly. In fact, they can evolve faster than the tools to detect it. Because if you're going to develop a tool to detect a deep fake, you have to test it. You have to
Yeah.
validate it. You want to make sure it's accurate. Where the attackers, they don't have to go through all of that. Whatever looks good, let's go. Right. So they can evolve much faster, which is why we don't see a whole lot of tools out there that
Mm,
remain effective over time. So
yeah,
it's a big challenge. A
it is.
lot of things I think that we're going to see in the future are really going to be around determining context. Right. And so, for example, the video for the elections, it wasn't a tech company that said, "Hey, this is fake and we can prove it." It was actually the person going, "That's fake. I didn't say it. It was the news agent didn't record that. That's fake." The detection was around the context and not discriminating the technology itself. So I
Yeah.
think that's where we're going to start seeing AI come in, bringing context in to be able to add to that depth of analysis. And that's where I think the big winners are going to be for deepfakes.
Yeah, so this goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? So you started with reactive security, then you had proactive security. So then you started with reactive security, that we will just fix once something breaks. We don't care about it. That was like 25 years ago, whatever. Then we were more like compliance and regulatory driven. Then we moved to proactive security. The next, what I said, was adaptive security. So these are the phases of adoption of cybersecurity that's going according to the model that I published, but also the maturity levels, because that's exactly the way the organizations think. But the thing is this: adaptive security is still about how resilient you are amidst an ongoing crisis, right?
Yeah.
But there is still this gap between the cyber criminals getting better versus you catching up. And our job is to close it, which will never get zero, but to close it as much as possible. And that's where this the next phase that I call as predictive security comes into the picture, because predictive security is what brings the context in addition to those pattern recognitions and all of those things. That's what allows them to be able to say, even before something is a threat, that this context is wrong, or this doesn't make sense, and it flags it. That's where we need to go with AI. It's not happening today, and I doubt it will just happen with LLMs unless LLMs really become much different than they are today. Some other
Yeah.
form. This is a very
It'll be
small.
agentic that brings in various
Correct, exactly.
resources
It has to be
that
some
ties
version of
together.
agentic AI,
Yeah.
exactly. But nonetheless, the models have to evolve quite a lot as well over time. So we're just like scratching. Also, the big, while cyber criminals are ahead of us, when it comes to AI evolution itself, I mean, AI is like 60, 70 years old. This is not a new concept. But the real shift that we're seeing right now, we're just scratching the surface. Like LLMs is mostly, as I said, the greatness is here, the good is here, and there's a lot of shit that is not great at. We just have to understand that, basically.
Well, I love the fact that you're talking about, being predictive, and that's been true, since the dawn of time, any type of warfare. But it's been really, really tough, especially in the cyber world. So, AI potentially may be one of those tools that will help us augment our predictive kind of skills and understanding where the adversaries are going, what type of methods they're going to use, what kind of tools they're going to employ, right? And I know you've worked in these types of models and frameworks. Can you talk a little bit more about AI augmented cyber leadership?
So when I say AI augmented cyber leadership, what I mean is that you have to understand there are at least three pillars of AI right now that every leader needs to understand. So there's a lot of AI talk here and there, right? And to simplify it for cyber leaders, I break them into three categories. The category one is AI governance. Category two is AI in cyber offense and defense, or just call it AI in cyber. So like
Okay.
actual use cases of AI. And the third is trustworthy AI. Because when we have talked about technology before, we talk about technology risks. That's mostly this middle thing. There is more to governance than ever before. And there is definitely way much more to trustworthiness of a technology that we never talked about before. And when we talk about trustworthiness of it, we talk about ethics, we talk about bias, we talk about discrimination, transparency, explainability, inclusiveness, fairness, all of those things that you would have not talked about in terms of technology before, right? And while AI itself is not conscious or sentient, at least not proven to be, some people claim that it is, the thing is that it is still being used in some sorts of decision making already in organizations and businesses and society, and I can give examples of that based on the data that's biased. So it's basically, again, as I said, it exacerbates in speed and scale. So everything that it does, every bias that we have had, every flaw that we have had as human and we have as human is now inherited in the technology and exacerbated in the technology. So we need to look at it in terms of what trustworthiness means. To answer your question, as I said, the group or categorize it into AI governance, what that means in terms of pillars. What is AI in cyber defense and offense? And what is trustworthy AI? How do you actually build that as what those skills really are needed? I mean, it's a very, very big topic. When I do my 90 minutes workshop, I scratch the surface of all three pillars, and I do, but I just scratch them. When I go into my masterclass, I go a little bit deeper. When I go into my accelerator program, then it's a one whole day in just talking about these three pillars because there's a lot to unfold there. And the thing is, this basically covers all different types of roles we are seeing right now in cybersecurity. So, like if you're in governance, risk, and compliance, then that governance part is very important for you. If you're in audit, and if you're in legal, for example, or you're in audit or you're in compliance, then that trustworthy AI part is very important for you. Even if you are doing, like, for example, some sort of pen testing against biases or so on, then also that part is important for you. When it comes to AI and cyber offense and defense, then definitely if you're a pen tester, if you're an architect, or if you're a product manager, then that part is important for you, right? So I think understanding these pillars is what is making you a better leader in whichever roles you are. So right now I cannot think of any better way to augment your skills as an AI, as a leader in cybersecurity, than just mastering these three pillars. And there will be evolution, don't get me wrong, this is not like exhaustive, but I think this covers really 80% of what most roles need today. And there's a lot I teach on these, but it's a very big topic.
Yeah, and those three pillars are hugely important. My concern in talking with the industry right now is a lot of people are really only focusing on that first pillar, right? Oh, AI, I just want to make sure I'm not violating any regulations, whatever else. I'm not worried about the other two pillars. So, what do you talk to people who have that mindset? I'm not worried about the trustworthy. Yeah, it needs to be accurate, but I'm not worried about the trustworthy. I'm not worried about anything else or the security. The security will work itself out. It's AI, it'll figure it out. I just want to make sure I'm not violating regulations. So let's just have that little piece of governance. That isn't even all the governance. That's one little piece of it. And that's their focus. What do you tell them to see the value of the bigger picture?
Fantastic question. Let's take all three of them. Okay, so first, AI governance is not just regulation. When I talk about AI governance, strategy is a part of it, implementation is a part of it, use cases are a part of it. So if you download my AI strategy template from my website, you will literally see that AI governance is way much more than just regulation. So that's where already, if you are there, you're going more than just, oh, I just want to be compliant, right? You're just going way more than that, right? That's one. Addressing the trustworthiness of it, right? I say this, I say this in my keynotes and in my programs. Trustworthy AI is like, when you talk about trustworthiness and you're like, I don't care about it. The problem is that when we are not talking enough about how AI is being used for decision making. So I made that comment earlier that I'll give some examples, which I didn't. So let me give some examples, right? AI doesn't decide. Let's just put that out there, right? It doesn't reason, it doesn't decide. It's still very much human to have this highly complex cognitive processes that makes us human and differentiates us from other species, and especially from machines, right? But AI is being used for some sort of decision making. And let me explain what I mean by that. Um, when AI is used for pattern recognition and analysis of, let's say, a photo that helps you understand, and or it's processing it and analyzing, and it says that there is a 90% accuracy or chance of this person having melanoma or skin cancer, then it's kind of like helping you decide what to do about that, right? So that's just kind of like not at all augmenting or replacing, but assisting in decision making. Then you have examples of augmentation of decision making, right? So like if you use AI for trading, that AI will basically say, like, you need to, if this is your risk level, this is your portfolio, this is the kind, it will suggest to you like you should invest in this index funds or that, or maybe make some investments on your behalf. But that's still augmentation, because you are still ultimately making the final buy or whatever that is, right? And then it's fully replacement, and that we see in machine learning powered fraud detection and prevention systems, right? So where not only are fraud prevention and detection systems analyzing the data, alerting in terms of an anomaly, but actually deciding to block a transaction in real time because it's fraudulent. Now the interesting part of that is the one that action happens, the decision has been made and an action has been taken, right? And not decision in terms of human decision, but a decision still has been made, and no human is sitting there and actually blocking the transaction now. Machine learning is doing that based on pattern recognition. But what's interesting is that in that case, you can call your bank and be like, hey, that was a mistake. This is a real transaction. Like, okay, fine, do your security checks and just let it go, right? The problem starts happening when those decisions are irrecoverable, or those actions are irrecoverable, or those consequences are irrecoverable. So when you are using AI in more critical scenarios where you can't just go back to it and there is already an irrecoverable consequence, that's where the problem starts happening. That's where trustworthy AI comes into the picture, because we're using. So what I say to those people is, it's not just about productivity. You are using AI for so many business decisions in your organization. If you don't understand the level of recoverable versus irrecoverable decisions, actions, and consequences, then you don't know the level to which do you have the human oversight. Then you don't know the trustworthy AI part at all. So that's going to be a big problem for you very soon if you don't know something about it. Then comes the third pillar to answer your question of what do you say about people who are not caring about AI in cyber offense and defense. As I said, if we don't understand what AI is good at and what is not good at, we are not only protecting the organization against AI based attacks that are real, we are actually creating unnecessary fear that should not exist, right? Which means we are also like not understanding the risks that come in when people wipe coded and created not just spaghetti code, but wipe coded code that you're using in your organization, creating shadow AI even beyond repair, and you're not having any AI use cases that actually help you. So I'll give you an example, real example. One of the organizations that I helped with a real AI use case was verification of data classification before even allowing that company to employees to get access to an AI that was managed by the company. Because once AI access to your data, but the data is not correctly classified, now you have access to AI, which means you can prompt and get access to any data that you're not supposed to have access data to. Your IAM model completely breaks. That is a real use case of AI. So
Yeah,
you're
no,
breaking your IAM model, right? And AI is, because as I said, adoption is everywhere, trust isn't. ways of identification and verification are no longer the same. You're not doing or verification of data classification, but then you're bringing in, even if it's corporate managed, you're bringing it in AI into your environment and giving it access to all your data. What can go wrong?
Well, and I think it's a great use case too for future AI,
And
security
it's
AI, to
something
be
we
able to
have
do
done.
that data
So
classification.
100%.
Especially when you've got other AI agents that are aggregating data from, let's say, confidential databases, but the aggregation of that now creates secret data, right? Having an AI oversight to go, nope, 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 you've now created
So
secret data. We can't have that, right?
So
So
here's the
that's
thing,
great.
right? And that's the reason why I said so important to differentiate this hype from reality, right? So I
Yeah.
do give, like in my courses in my accelerator program, the accelerator program has one full day of AI. The rest is for security leadership, right? So it's all rounded. But then I also have just an AI accelerator program where I just do 3 days of AI. One is AI governance, and one is AI and cyber offensive defense, and one is trustworthy AI, like even deeper into it. So, I mean, pick your poison, whatever you're ready for,
Well, okay,
guys.
okay. So you've got tons of great content, right? You've got master classes, and you've got actuators and training and frameworks and web pages. So for somebody that is overwhelmed, right, where would you drive somebody to go to first? Either somebody that's kind of new to this that wants to get spun up, or somebody that's been in this going, oh my gosh, what you just talked about, I have to learn all about that. I'm now worried. Where would you direct them to go kind of as a first step?
Okay, very simple. So if you are already an aspiring or a current leader that just wants to understand how do you step up in your cybersecurity leadership role, then my masterclass is on demand. So basically, you buy it one time, you have lifetime access. Any updates that happen will always be given to you. You just pay it one time, you're done. You will get all the frameworks, it has all the templates. That's the best way to go. When it comes to accelerator program, it requires a little bit more commitment. For that, what I recommend is I actually have on 15th December my last free workshop on AI for cyber leaders, which is where I just scratch the surface of it, but it gives you an idea. It's a free workshop, so you can just join. It's on 15th December. That's the last one I'm doing this year, and you can just yeah, because I've been gotta go on holidays, guys. But anyway, this is the last time I'm doing this year. It's free workshop. You can just join and you can see really like the kind of content I have, and then you can decide based on that whether it's the better is accelerator program for security leadership or the AI one. And ultimately, if you go on my website, it shows you all the. If you go on to monicatalkcyber.com/accelerator or /AI-accelerator, it gives you all the content already. So you can just go look at it. It will tell you what I'm going to teach there. So there are no secrets.
I'll tell everybody
That's
too.
awesome.
We'll
Thank
post
you.
that in the comments, the links.
I'll send you the links.
Yeah,
Yes,
to
you can
all
post
the
it up.
your masterclass, the Cyber Leader Accelerator, everything we'll post in the comments. So everybody has access to it now. So we're right at 1:00. Wow, that went fast.
That was
Monica,
right.
that was fantastic. Matthew, thank you so much, like always. Yeah, this has been fantastic. And again, Monica, thank you so much for your time. Alex, like always, thank you for being my co-host. If you guys want to stay on for a second, I'm just going to shut off right now. But again,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on, really.
Thank you.
And to
Thank you,
everybody who
everyone.
tuned in, who listened, really